Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Harmon Speaks. I have a great guest today. I can't wait to get into this. I have a former neighbor. Her name is Deborah, and Deborah is the mother of one of my favorite children on the planet. You know, after mine, of course. She is the mother of Llewellen, and Llewellen is autistic. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. So we've been through sort of a series of diagnoses.
Right.
That wasn't our first one.
Okay.
Our first diagnosis was cerebral palsy.
Okay.
But then that kind of got refuted, and they said, well, no, she's in the autism spectrum.
Okay.
With the cerebral palsy diagnosis, she didn't have this typical stride that a person of CP would have. Right. But with the other things that were going on with her, her deafness, she signs a little bit, she wears a cochlear implant, and then the way she processes things, that all fell in the autism spectrum, her processing, not the deafness. So it's transitioned from CP to autism spectrum, which is a great catch-all for, you know, we're not real specific, but you're in there.
Okay. How did you first know that something was a little special about Llewellen?
Well, that's a good question. So I had a couple of friends that both had children with cerebral palsy.
Okay.
And the three of us were sitting around one day, and they were describing some of the things that their children do or don't do. And as I was listening to it, I was thinking, that's funny. That kind of reminds me of Llewellen.
Right. Okay.
So after that, I went and talked to her doctor. She had a few other things that happened. She had something called torticollis, which is when she was an infant, her head and her shoulder were scrunched up like this. Okay. She wasn't born that way, but it got that way. Okay. And the muscle right here at the shoulder felt like an actual bone. Okay. And so the physical therapist and the doctor diagnosed it as torticollis, and then she got physical therapy, and then from that diagnosis we moved on to other questions that I had, like could she possibly have CP? Then we saw a wonderful neurologist who isn't here in Knoxville anymore. Right. But we saw a wonderful neurologist who sat her on his lap when he did the diagnosis and just diagnosed her like our grandfather. Great. And he says, yeah, I would say she does have cerebral palsy. So that's how we found out about that. Okay. She was very little. She had to be less than 2 years old. She didn't walk until she was almost 3. Right. I think that's what it was, yeah. Okay.
Tell me a little bit about the early school experience.
Well, that was kind of a surprise because I didn't know that in Knox County that there was a school. It was at Fort Sanders, and I'm assuming they still have it.
Yes, I think so.
But so at the age of 3, you start school so that you can get a head start. Right. So we went to Fort Sanders first, and I just want to mention, like, not only at this time was I caring for Llewellen, but I have another child as well, and so just this whole balancing act. I just, God bless all the parents who are trying to make it through this balancing act. It is quite a work in and of itself. So she's going to this special school at 3, and you know, I'm a single mom. I'm trying to work, and I'm trying to get my other child to his functions as well. But she started this special school at 3, and it was very good. I loved that experience. I wish she could have just stayed there. Right. But unfortunately, she was only there for a short while, and then she started kindergarten at I can't remember the name of the elementary school right now. It's off of Pleasant Ridge Road. Okay, I don't know. But she started kindergarten shortly after that, and that was a good experience too.
So they were good with her.
Yes, the early school days were really good. Anything from pre-kindergarten, I guess they would call that the Fort Sanders sort of preschool experience, up to all of elementary school.
Right.
I got a little touch and go after elementary school, actually a lot, but up to all of elementary school was pretty good. Okay. Sometimes quite emotional, but for her, some of her behaviors were quite emotional.
What does that mean?
Well, I think because when you have this disconnect in your head from your emotions and your ability to express them, that when you do express them, it's not in ways that should be expressed. Like, you don't go throwing things across a room to say you don't want to go outside. And sometimes things like that happened. I don't want to embarrass her. I don't want to get too specific, but you know that something like that happened, and she still remembers that. She still remembers some of the things that she did. My other child was very helpful at home. She would have just these emotional breakdowns, and she didn't know how to say how she felt. And sometimes her emotional breakdowns, you could see it in her eyes. She couldn't peak. She would get so upset, and she could just get more and more and more angry. And I would look at her and think, how can a person get angrier? But she could. So her brother would come along and just hug her. At that time, I wasn't thinking of hugging her. He came and just hugged her, and everything just stopped. She was able to cry it out, and it just, it was amazing. It was probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Is someone help someone get through some sort of a high emotional state that they could not get themselves out of. Sure.
That's a beautiful story, and exactly how family should work.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Exactly how it works. Fortunately, I married someone smarter than I am, so my family has plenty of that.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you, dear. I appreciate it. But she knows how to take care of, when my children get on the edge, she can bring them back. She's very good about that. And I'll be like, let me kick you off. Boom.
Well, it's not gonna, what I learned is that as a parent, I had to stop blaming myself and saying, oh, well, you should just give her a spanking. That's all it takes. But that's not what it takes. There's a type of, yes, it is horrible. It's actually torment for them, because already there's this disconnect between what they're doing and how they're acting. So,
and they already don't know how to explain what they're feeling.
They really don't. And so how are they going to understand the consequence of a spanking? So you have to, one, just put aside some of the forms of discipline and not blame yourself for saying, oh, I'm not doing the right thing because I'm not disciplining like the people down the street. You're doing the best you can. And like you were saying, that is how family is supposed to act. They're supposed to love each other. They're supposed to recognize when someone needs help. And when their own emotions are such a hindrance for them. So that's why, you know, I just still remember that to this day. It helped her so much to have her brother come along and do that.
That's great. You know, when Nathan was young, and we had already had him diagnosed as autistic, I knew getting angry is not going to solve anything, It doesn't solve anything.
Nothing.
So, and I've shared this before, and I apologize for repeating, but I want to share it with you. One day, he was playing with a toy. He was flipping it around and around, and not to put too fine a point on it, but he was doing it right by my big screen TV.
Ouch.
And I wanted him to stop. But I can't yell at him because that's just going to make him sad and scary and run off. I didn't want to do that. So I called him over to me. He was a little trepidatious, but he went over to see what I wanted. And I said, I want you to put your head right here, top of your head right here. And he leaned over and put his head right there. And I put my arms around his neck, and I said, I'm going to tell you, sorry. I said, I'm going to tell you a secret. And he said, what's the secret? And I said, never in your life have I ever been truly angry with you. And he said, never? And I said, no, I never have. And I said, but sometimes we all do things that are beyond the comfort zone of everybody else. And when you live in a family, you have to kind of agree to certain rules. And I said, one rule Daddy has is you don't put a toy through his TV. He's an old man. It's one of the few things he can still do. So I need you to put the toy down and play with it safely and not do that. And he said, okay. And I said, anytime that you and I have a disconnect and we need to reconnect, you feel free to come do this. And we'll talk about anything that's on your mind. Now, he was old enough that probably only lasted a few months. But for a few months, it was a beautiful thing.
That is beautiful.
We never got mad. To this day, I've never shouted at that boy. I just don't do it. Why would you? He immediately can't hear it if you raise your voice.
No.
So,
he won't hear that.
And if he hears it, what he hears is, you're not good, you're not good. And
yes.
I don't want him to think that.
Yes.
I love that boy. So,
that was so gentle. I mean, it just makes me think of, I mean, I don't want to get religious or anything, but
okay.
But I am a religious person.
Right.
But it makes me think of that scripture that says, let your gentleness be evident to all.
Right.
And that's not something, to me, that's not something you would have been taught to do.
Right.
That's something you have to be given at that moment.
Right.
And so here you see this toy swinging around, and you see your big screen TV. You love them both, but you love the child more. So it's like that's beautiful. I love that, and I just hope that more people consider that. I would consider that even still.
Right.
I could probably still even do that with Lauren. I mean, she is in her 30s, but she lives with me, and she wants to live with me, and I want her to live with me, and we get along just fine. So just two women, one little old woman and her, living together, but that's beautiful. Right. I love that.
I'm glad you like it.
I do. I love that.
We knew we would have to find a new path. I was not raised that way.
No.
I still have handprints on my backside. So I didn't want to do that. So I had to find a new way.
I was not raised that way either. And I would have to say that would be something I wish I would have done. I have made the mistake of yelling at Lauren. But the good thing about it is she is completely able to put into words now how something makes her feel.
Good.
And I am so grateful that she does. I can go to her and say, Lauren, you're right. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? Right. And she's so kind. She's so tender. She just says, of course I'll forgive you.
Right.
I just want you to know how it made me feel.
Right. That's fantastic.
It's just beautiful.
That is great. That's fantastic. But tell me a little bit about the high school years. How did she do in high school?
You know, I thought high school was disappointing and kind of a time of discovery.
Okay.
Because she had to come to grips with the fact that her class experience was really going to be different.
Right.
She starting out in the special ed classroom, and she would leave that classroom and go out to other, I guess, regular ed classrooms. And the teachers were very kind and tried to work with her. But after a while, it became apparent that this was not, well, I would say apparent, but I became convinced that she needed to just go ahead and stay in the special ed classroom. If I had to do it all over again, I'd let her keep trying. I would let her keep going to those other classes. I wouldn't care if she made an F on every test. I would say none of her tests should be graded. They should all be, hey, she came, she did it, she attempted, so be it. But so high school was kind of a time of discovery. There was a change when she started high school, she had one instructor who was really good.
Right.
And then the second year, that instructor got moved to another class, and the whole high school experience just changed.
Right.
If I had it to do all over again, I would just have her in regular classes.
Right. I think that's great.
Yeah.
They need to be in the world with everybody else.
They really do, and I think that it's probably one of the greatest lessons of tolerance.
Right.
That
I think so too.
All students get to play is having someone in their classroom where they have to think about the other person, including themselves.
Yeah.
So
Nathan has always taken English in a special ed environment. This year he's in regular standard English.
Good.
And I thought, I was a little scared, but the teacher turned out to be amazing. And we went in to talk to him, and he said, now, Mr. Harmon, I want to reassure you. When I read Nathan's writing, I don't say, if it's not Henry David Thoreau, it's an F. He said, I look to see if Nathan Harmon has written an essay.
Oh, yes.
And he says, I want to hear his voice, and I teach him that. And he says, I think so because, and he says, that's all I need.
Educating the individual.
Right. And I immediately felt comfortable with him. I got out of the way. Nathan loves it now. He loves it. He's reading Fahrenheit 451, and he understands it. And he comes in, and he's talking about, can you imagine firemen coming to burn down your house?
Wow.
No, he really wrestles with this. So I think that's a beautiful thing. He might not have gotten that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. One of the things I think I noticed about Lauren, and I don't know if this is, I don't standardize it with everyone who's in the autism spectrum, but one of the things I noticed about her is that she remembers things from long ago, but she continues processing them in a different way. Right. So it's like watching a plant just bloom and then bloom again and then bloom again and bloom again. So I get to see Nathan, like maybe years from now, still thinking about that book, and saying something else about it. But
well, he would be able to be in a conversation with somebody who says, you know, some of these books should just be taken away because they have bad ideas. And Nathan would say, well, they tried that in Fahrenheit 451, and it didn't work. He did in middle school. They read the book Wonder. Did you ever read that?
I don't think I've ever read that.
It's a lovely book about a boy who has a facial disability where his face looks a little unusual.
Oh, it was a movie.
Right, it was a movie.
Yeah.
And the movie is wonderful as well.
Is it good?
You should see it. But Nathan was reading the book with his class, and one of the boys sitting by him said, I sure am glad I'm not that little boy. And Nathan looked over and said, why? And he said, I wouldn't want my face to look like that. And my little boy looked at him and he said, it doesn't matter what your face looks like. It matters what your heart looks like.
Amen.
And I was sitting here and I said, thank you, Lord, that he has the nicest mother on the planet. Because I'd have told him to just beat him into the floor.
Well, but you might have told him to beat him after he said that.
No,
or before. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But I think his mother has modeled that kind of kindness to where he.
But you know, it's actually good that that little boy said that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, had he not said that,
it wouldn't have been dealt with.
He wouldn't have gotten such a tender answer from Nathan.
Right.
Because I would imagine Nathan didn't say it in an angry way.
Right.
Because his daddy is tender.
Right. Well, right.
His daddy taught him to put his head right here.
Well, I did because I love my buddy.
Yeah.
But the teacher told me the story, not Nathan. The teacher told me the story. And she said, when that boy made that comment, she said, you know how teachers are. He
swing around.
That lady, they're swinging down and get him. And then she said, wait a minute, Nathan's about to speak. And she put her wings back. I said, let's see what happens.
Nathan's about to speak. She put her wings back.
Isn't that great?
That's funny.
And he said that sweet thing to him to make him think, not to make him angry. They're still friends. He just wanted to make sure this guy understood what he was saying.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and it may turn out that sometimes when we think our face is great, it's not as great as we think it is.
That's the truth.
Well, I just got to hope Kathy will forgive me because this is all I got.
Hey, that's the one you brought with you, right? This is the one I've got. So
well, you know, when we first started dating, I took her and I said, "This is my father. I look just like him, unfortunately. And when I'm this age, that's what I'm going to look like." And she goes, "Okay."
Oh, wow.
And she didn't leave at least. So.
She's like, "Okay, I guess I'll just love you."
Okay. And for some reason she can't. That's very nice. All right. Talk about adulthood. What is she like now?
So,
and I don't know anything about this, so I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Wow, adulthood. So she has the same desires as everyone else. She wants to get married. She wants to have children. She wants to be in pageants. You know, she's very girly.
Right.
Very, very girly. Very expressive. She keeps saying she wants to have a YouTube channel.
Well, great. Neil will be glad to work with
Well,
him.
good.
He has no loyalty. He'll do anybody.
But she does. The good thing about it is that she, even after she just openly expresses herself like that, she also confronts some of the things that, I don't want to call them barriers, but they are certainly like life posts that you have to consider.
Right.
So we talk about those things. We talk about marriage, and we talk about how good of a job she does at communicating with me, and that she needs to keep that up. And I say, you know, there are times when you want time to yourself, and if you're considering having children, that's going to be very, very limited.
Right.
So we do talk about things like that, but she's very honest. She will talk about anything. She'll talk about marriage, sex, babies, how you have babies, you know, whatever. She doesn't care. She'll talk with me about it.
Great.
She's in a really good class. I don't know if I can mention her Bible class.
No, please do. Yeah,
okay,
sure.
It's called Sunshine, SONSHINE.
Nice.
And she loves that class because they get together. Not only do they study the Bible, but they have times where they can just show off their talents. So she'll go get the microphone and she'll sing something from Celine Dion and know that she's not going to be embarrassed, and that everybody's going to be supportive of her. We just had a dance recently, and it was just so much fun, and I think that's one of the really adult things that she likes. She tells me that she doesn't want me in that class with her because that is her class. There's her time to be able to speak out without me looking over her shoulder. But we are together most of the time. But yeah, she loves that class, and I think that that really helps her a lot. She went to UT. She went to the she graduated from the Future program. So she went 2 years at UT, graduated. That was one of her dreams. As a matter of fact, when she was walking down the hallway in elementary school, she said something to me. She said, "Mom, I do not want to be in high school until I'm 22. How she found out that that was a possibility, I don't know. But she must have heard it, and she said, "I do not want to be in high school until I'm 22. I kept that in my head. She said she wanted to go to college, so thank God she was able to do that. UT Future program. She's worked a little bit. She worked at a frozen yogurt place called Minchie's. She did some internships in the Knox County schools at a little elementary school while she was at UT. And she works at home. Like, she has jobs that she does on certain days. She knows she gets up and does a certain job, boom, 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 and she does it to precision. But you know, for the most part, she is, I think she's still sort of trying to figure out where she fits or what's a good fit for her. So she just tries different things. You know, being in Sunshine was one of those things, but it still is, and she loves that class. But she loves being an adult. She's 31. She doesn't feel like she's old. I know sometimes when we get in our 30s, we kind of go, "Oh, I'm in my 30s," but she loves it. And I just think, well, that's the way we should always be. We should be rejoicing over every birthday, whether it's 31 or 65. Just
you're getting close to home now, but okay.
Hey. But this side of heaven, I'll take it.
I agree. Well, I want to thank you for coming and talking to us today. I think you are a model of what mothers ought to be like. And I've always admired you. You know that. We've been friends a long time. And I know my wife admires you as well.
And I love you all both.
And I think she really carries some of your example in her heart when she's raising our own kids. And I think that's wonderful. And I hope that those who are watching this show understand that all people with all disabilities are people first.
Amen.
Just love them, help them the best you can, treat them well, and they're going to have a beautiful life. It's possible with everybody.
Yes.
When I was at my fundraiser this weekend, I met a group of Down syndrome children, and they all ran over. Nobody said, "Where are your hands?" They all hugged me. And one of the girls started talking about how the most important thing she had was a good attitude. Yes. Nice.
Yes.
Right? Nice. And I want everybody out there to please understand that if you have a disability, you're afraid to get out into the world, please understand things are changing. And we're trying to help them change. So get out into the world. You'll find people who love you and will be with you, and you'll enjoy it if you'll just give it a try.
Yes.
Now, I want to remind everybody that we have a little contest going on with Catalyst Sports. I have told them that if I have 1,000 subscribers by May the 1st, I will go on a raft. Help me, Neil.
Kayak.
A kayak, yeah. See, I'm so scared of it, I can't remember the word. I'll go, Neil's been counting the days. You're going to be in a kayak, But that's okay, because I'm going to make him come out and film it. But I'll do the kayak, even though it scares me to death, if you'll join us and help us make this possible. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for your likes and your support. We love you. We'll see you next week. Thank you.